ABC 10 News at 4 starts now.
Mr. Gloria will have a tough job.
A peaceful end to the heated fight to be San Diego's next mayor. Barbara Bree conceding the race to Todd Gloria today. Possible changes on the way as President-elect Joe Biden reveals his COVID-19 task force. How new policy could affect your wallet. Plus, business owners dreading a possible crippling announcement coming tomorrow when our restaurants and gyms would have to shut indoor operations again. And nearly a week after Election Day, the race for San Diego mayor is over. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kimberly Hunt. Councilmember Barbara Bree conceded to Assemblymember Todd Gloria today. ABC 10 News anchor Lindsay Pena shows us the new developments and looks back at the contentious race.
Our city faces many challenges because of COVID-19, and Mr. Gloria will have a tough job.
That was San Diego Councilmember and mayoral candidate Barbara Bree Monday morning via Zoom. She told voters that one day earlier she'd called challenger Todd Gloria to congratulate him on winning the race.
I know that he loves San Diego, the city where he was born.
Shortly after, Todd Gloria released this written statement. Quote, I want to thank Councilmember Bree for her service to our city, and I wish her and her family well. It is time to put the campaign behind us and come together as San Diegans to resolve the many challenges we face. Voters have embraced my vision of creating a city that works for all of us. It's now time to turn that vision into reality. I am honored to be the next mayor of San Diego. Although the two candidates were both Democrats, the race was at times heated, with accusations surfacing from both sides. Bree saying Gloria's supporters were responsible for deceptive mailers and an attack ad showing the councilwoman appearing to doze off at a city meeting. Gloria's camp accusing Bree and others of inciting violence against him for his support of a state Senate bill that gave judges more discretion in some sex offender cases.
It's about the threat of physical violence. And in this day and age, we just cannot stand for that. And I think particularly given that these threats are being motivated by thinly veiled homophobia.
Bree condemned the threats, but said she was also facing threats because of attack ads. Bree also spoke out against the Union Tribune's endorsement of Gloria, saying it was sexist. Although the results of the election have yet to be certified and there are still votes left to count, as of now, Gloria leads Bree by more than 73,000 votes. Lindsay Pena, ABC 10 News.
Bree's term on the San Diego City Council will end next month. She chose to run for mayor instead of seeking a second term representing District 1. And tonight we're expecting updated results in other local races. The race for the County Board of Supervisors in District 2 is tightening between two Republicans, Steve Voss and Joel Anderson. Voss is only leading by roughly 200 votes. And the race for the County Board of Supervisors in District 3 continues to favor challenger Tara Lawson-Remer. Remer, a Democrat, now holds an over 48,000 vote lead over incumbent Kristen Gaspar. We'll have updated results on that race coming up on ABC 10 News at 5 o'clock. Minutes ago, Attorney General Bill Barr authorized the DOJ to investigate allegations of voting irregularities. The decision comes a few hours after the Trump campaign announced new lawsuits over the election.
We are fighting for the rights of all Americans who want to have faith and confidence not only in this election, but in the many elections to come.
The lawsuit is against the Pennsylvania Secretary of State. It claims equal access was violated by denying observation of the vote count in Democrat-controlled counties. It also claims a violation of equal protection between Republican voters and Democratic voters. The campaign, however, did not offer evidence saying that it is still substantiating the claims. President Trump has refused to concede the election to Joe Biden, who was projected as the winner in Pennsylvania, instead going through the legal means of these lawsuits. And now to promising news in the fight against the coronavirus. Pfizer says early data shows that its COVID-19 vaccine is more than 90% effective. The drug maker says that it could seek emergency use authorization from the FDA by next week.
I think the vaccine will be available for free to all American citizens. I believe most countries will do the same. We are giving it to the government at quite low price. So I think every American will have access to it.
And the company says it expects to have up to 50 million doses available globally this year and more than 1 billion next year. ABC 10 News anchor Mary McKenzie has the response from one local vaccine researcher and what the news likely signals about other clinical trials.
First reaction was some skepticism because 2020 has been like 100 years long.
Dr. Shane Crotty is a vaccine scientist with the La Jolla Institute for Immunology. Like the rest of us, he woke up to Pfizer's big announcement about its vaccine, right now in phase 3 clinical trials. He says his skepticism was won over quickly.
And as soon as I read their paragraph on the actual numbers,
demonstrating as high as a 90% efficacy rate over 94 cases, Crotty says that's good news, really good news on a number of fronts. For the pandemic, for public health in general, for science, and specifically for vaccine development going forward.
To be able to go within the same calendar year, from nothing to a 90% efficacy signal in a phase 3 clinical trial.
As for what's next and when we might likely see massive rollout, Pfizer has said by the end of the year, it'll have manufactured enough doses to immunize 15 to 20 million people. The efficacy announced today, then safety data and manufacturing are the 3 requirements necessary for Pfizer to file for emergency use authorization with the FDA. So yes, it will be some time, perhaps a year even, before there are enough doses administered to the general public for there to be a real return to anything resembling normal. But today, he says, was a big step in the right direction and expects more steps to follow, more trials to be close to announcing similar news in the next month or 2. He acknowledges there will also have to be real inroads made in boosting the public's confidence so enough people are willing to take that vaccine. Mary McKenzie, ABC 10 News.
And this just in, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration authorized emergency use of Eli Lilly & Co.'s experimental COVID-19 antibody treatment. President Donald Trump has praised the drug and vowed to make it available free of cost for all Americans. The FDA says the authorization is based on clinical trials showing the treatment reduced the need for hospitalization. News of the progress on a vaccine sent stocks soaring today. The Dow finished up 3% after soaring 1,600 points this morning. The S&P 500 closed up 1.2%, and the Nasdaq closed down 1.5%. Meantime, today, President-elect Joe Biden announced the team that will help form new policy to fight the pandemic. Joe St. George is in Washington with how the Biden administration's plan might change your day-to-day.
The president-elect meeting with his newly formed COVID-19 advisory board. Dr. David Kessler, a former Food and Drug Administration commissioner, Dr. Vivek Murthy, a former Surgeon General of the United States, and Dr. Marcella Nunez-Smith, a public health professor at Yale, will all co-chair the group.
It starts with doing everything possible to get the COVID-19 under control.
The announcement comes as Pfizer reports early success with the possible vaccine, but the president-elect still stressing patience to the American people today.
Please, I implore you, wear a mask.
One big question, how will President-elect Biden change policy and impact your life?
They're going to allow the evidence to be back in the driver's seat.
Dr. John Andrus is an epidemiologist with the George Washington University School of Public Health. He says possible COVID response changes in a Biden administration include a national mask mandate, more federal guidance for governors and mayors, increased reliance on international public health groups, and more contact tracing and testing supplies.
Lessons learned from many of countries such as those in South Asia clearly show that aggressive testing and contact tracing with appropriate isolation and quarantine works.
Another big change may be COVID economic relief impacting your pocketbook. Remember, Democrats wanted to spend trillions of more dollars than Republicans earlier this summer, and they'll have more leverage to pass stimulus check payments and student loan forgiveness come January. It remains possible, though, that another round of economic relief is passed while President Trump is in office. In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
Housing and Urban Development Secretary Ben Carson has tested positive for coronavirus. According to his Deputy Chief of Staff, Carson is being treated and expects a speedy recovery. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows also has the virus. Both attended President Trump's election night watch party at the White House, and 4 others in the president's orbit subsequently tested positive last week.
President Trump has fired his Secretary of Defense. Mark Esper has been replaced with Christopher Miller, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. Esper clashed with the president earlier this year over how protests across the country should be handled. Esper was against invoking the Insurrection Act, which would allow the president to deploy active duty troops to respond to civil unrest. The European Union is slapping new tariffs on $4 billion of American goods and services. This comes after the World Trade Organization determined that the U.S. had given illegal aid to Boeing, which rivals Europe's Airbus. Now, the penalties on U.S. trade are to make up for that. The EU says it hopes that trade ties will improve when President Trump leaves office.